It's not even December 1st, and the Hurricanes are already a massive disappointment. Coming off a year where Miami completely bottomed out the second half of the season, finishing 14th out of 15 ACC teams, I thought the Canes were due for a major bounce back. You look at the roster coming into this season, on paper it was one of the best backcourts in the ACC. Nigel Pack, Matthew Cleveland returning, Jaleel Bethea, incoming 5-star, Jalen Blackman, the Stetson transfer, averaged over 20 points a game last year. Plus you throw in impact front court additions like Lynn Kidd, Brandon Johnson. I thought this was a Miami group that would go back to being competitive in the ACC and maybe finish in the top 5 or 6 of the conference standings. So far, they look like anything but that type of team. In fact, they look a lot like the team that completely fell apart last season, now on a 4-game losing streak to bring their overall record to 3-4. That includes a loss to Drake, one of the best stories of this college basketball season so far, a loss to Oklahoma State, a bottom-tier Big 12 team, a loss to VCU, one of the favorites in the A-10. None of those losses are necessarily bad in a vacuum, but in some it's pretty rough. And then you throw on this most recent loss to Charleston Southern, a team that's in the 300s on KenPom, and won despite being a 25-point underdog. And you're looking at a very rough start to the season for Miami. Maybe the most obvious problem facing this Miami Hurricanes team is that their defense is absolutely abysmal. You take a look over at KenPom, offensive rating, they're number 24 in the country, defensive rating, number 281. Evan Mia's metrics back this up as well. When you look at Miami's O rate, which is a measurement of how their offense performs against similarly rated teams, Miami's 4th in the ACC. But when it comes to how they stack up defensively against similarly rated teams, Miami is dead last in the ACC. Looking at Miami's personnel entering the season, they were never going to be a great defensive team, but they certainly weren't supposed to be this bad. And it definitely doesn't help that Jalen Blackman, who according to Evan Mia has been Miami's second most impactful offensive player, is their worst defensive player by a wide margin. So they are making a huge trade-off anytime he's on the floor. If that wasn't enough to convince you that Miami's defense is a problem, in addition to the fact that they just gave up 83 points to a team that entering today was winless against Division I competition, then consider that Miami is shooting 50% from the field, 36% from 3, 81% from the line as a team, and they have a losing record. Miami's upcoming schedule doesn't get any easier, with the Hurricanes facing Arkansas, Clemson, and Tennessee over their next 3 games. In some sense, that's good because picking up wins in these games gets them back on track, but given the way they're playing right now, these aren't exactly the type of opponents you want to see in a get-right game. I would definitely say Miami's been one of the most disappointing teams in college basketball to open this season, and I don't think there's any obvious solution to their defensive problems, because with the roster they have, there's just not a ton of room for improvement defensively. Maybe the consolation is that there's a lot of season left, and the offense is still really good, so maybe that wins you a bunch of games, but the way things have gone so far, that doesn't look likely.